What up, y'all? Appreciate you showing up, hanging out, listening to my dumb ass. Like and subscribe. So, seems that Digital Foundry has flown the coop. They broke out. They broke the chains of slavery of IGN's power, and now they're 100% independent. I thought that would change their content in some ways, but then I thought it's probably not about that. Let me explain. IGN bought some conglomeration of websites and print media and stuff, and Digital Foundry and I guess Eurogamer was all kind of twisted up into that. It was Ziff Davis, I believe, bought that. And so, let's say IGN, but it's Ziff Davis, whatever. And so, Rich and crew bought the IGN shares, which was, I guess it was 50%, and then he got somebody else to buy another 50%, so they're totally independent. Anyway, the point is that IGN, for kind of lack of a better explanation, was kind of under the thumb of PlayStation, Sony, because they contributed so much ad revenue to IGN for PlayStation products and such that a lot of the income coming into IGN was from Sony, was from PlayStation. And so that had to affect some type of things, some certain type of ways. It's almost like peyote, but not really. But the main thing is that that's not even an issue anymore. It's just like boom. It's just Digital Foundry, solo dolo, and then freaking, they gotta figure out a way to make money. I mean, they're doing it with their YouTube channel and whatever. They'll do a store and all that, whatever. They'll figure it out. They'll be alright. But what I had kind of thought, which was probably wrong, but I'll explain why I think it's wrong and why I think they are the way that they are. What I thought is that the PlayStation influence over IGN trickled down to all the other companies. So when you see all the coverage in the media, it's always Sony positive, because Sony is tied to all of these different media outlets. They have a stake in all these outlets. So it's like, oh, we don't want to mess up the hand. They want to bite the hand that feed us. So boom, we got to say something there. We don't want to say something bad about Papa Sony, blah, 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 And so I'm like, okay, I understand that, but it's not. Is that how you win? By buying your way? Buying out the media so you get all the good press? Instead of making a superior product? Just saying. They have not made the superior product this whole generation. And when they do figure out how to make a quote-unquote superior product, it's way overpriced. So it's actually not superior. Because superior is price and product. It's not just, oh, this is stronger. But if it's unattainable, if it's ridiculously too expensive, it's not worth the money. Anyway, so what I thought was that the PlayStation influence trickled down into Digital Foundry. I was wrong. So what it is, I think, is that they understand that, especially, pretty much all of them. They understand that positive Sony news and negative Xbox news is profitable. Now, I say that just kind of bluntly, but it's not quite, Sony positive news, Xbox negative news. What they do, and you pay attention to how they act when they're talking about Sony, look at the thumbnails, look at the Sony specs, everybody smiling, surprise, hey, ooh, cool, hey. And they talk about Xbox stuff, it's like frowning, what's going on, you notice that. Just first thing you look at the thumbnails. Every time there's an Xbox story, positive, whatever, they're looking kind of frumpy. They're looking kind of confused, because Xbox doing things positively confuses these ponies. But then when Sony comes out with some stuff, smiles and Kool-Aid, rainbows and unicorns. Donkey unicorns. That's what it is. You know, I know I've been noticed that. I haven't heard anybody say anything about that, but I've been noticed that. But then when you watch the videos, you hear how they speak about what Xbox is doing, and it's like, oh, I don't understand. I don't understand anything about what I don't. It's hard to. Why are they doing this? How are they gonna? I'm like, y'all got big brains. Y'all can like break down these pixel counts and do all this stuff, and you know about the systems, their hardware, rendering, pipelines, and all. You know all these things, but you can't understand Microsoft trying to make some money, put your stuff more places, get more money. It's simple, but they don't understand it. Then, when they're talking about the Sony specs, the PS6 specs, right, the leaked specs. Wonder and excitement, and they're speculating about how glorious this would be and all this stuff, and I'm like, Now I will say that when they went over the Xbox specs, they were still hesitant and not knowing a lot and having why, but at the same time they were like, okay, this architecture is kind of cool, blah blah blah. I mean, paraphrasing, of course, but they weren't as negative, because it's just straight up hardware. You know, they can't be negative about a piece of hardware. It's just what it is. It is what it is, right? So, but I haven't heard them say anything negative about the fact that the PlayStation specs, leaked specs, are less powerful than the Xbox specs. I haven't heard any of that. You wonder why? I don't know. What I think is that they're trying to, once again, cater to the zeitgeist, if that makes sense. They're trying to be a part of the zeitgeist in that, feeding that Sony machine, Sony positivity machine, until it falls apart, which is starting to happen. It starts with the hardcore, and it's going to bleed into the casuals. And the way it bleeds into the casuals is that the casuals will see that new Xbox, whether it's the handheld or probably the home system, if it's not too super expensive. And they're going to be like, I can play everything, all the game. I'm getting that. Period. That's it. Like, why would I get a PlayStation when I can play PlayStation and Xbox and on this? It's just as simple. It's simple. That's why Atari sued ColecoVision and put ColecoVision out of business back in the day, because Coleco made an Atari 2600 adapter for their console. You slapped it on the side, you can play Atari 2600 cartridges on the ColecoVision. My cousin had one. I was like, what is this black magic? This is kind of cool. And this is before, I'm a kid. I was like, oh, this is dope. And then, Atari came through and did what they did. And I was like, oh, okay. But now, that's not what happens anymore. It's the industry is so open. The fact that Nintendo and Sony are holding on to that old school way, that old model, it's not helping them. Anyone else who has adopted this open kind of mentality will only benefit from it. If you have a game, I mean, this is just devs across the board. Any dev will want their game in as many places as possible. Period. That's it, and that's all. There's no other type of explanation. That's what it is. You make a game, you want as many people to play your game. That's it, and that's all. There's nothing else to be said about it. And so, it's just, there's so many other things that are happening. And these Digital Foundry dudes, once again, are just kind of placating to the audience. And I think especially now, I mean, on the tech stuff, they'll do their tech stuff. They'll do whatever they usually do, right? They'll be true to that stuff. But when it comes to more opinions and, speculation and stuff like that, they're going to kind of go with the flow, meaning, oh, everybody's still liking PlayStation. PlayStation is number one, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, until something like that new Xbox comes through, and if that new Xbox comes through and it starts dominating and it starts being the zeitgeist, and that becomes the default video game console of next generation, which can happen because it's been flipping flopping every generation. There's a new leader, right? I mean, this generation is basically still last generation because let's be real, most PlayStation 5 games are PlayStation 4 games. Let's be real. There's a handful of PlayStation 5 games. Everything else is PlayStation 4. Cross-play, cross-competitive, cross games. And so them staying with that kind of Sony's the winner, blah, 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 and it was Oliver, that's his name, that knucklehead. He's like, oh, they, you know, Xbox gave up the fight and they did all, and I'm like, for people who are so smart, how can they be so dumb? Because they see they're coming out with a console. So how did they give up the fight? I don't understand. Oh, because they put their games everywhere? How was that giving up the fight? That's making more money. That's actually reinforcing their games and their studios and their ability to make more games and to create more studios to do whatever they need to do. More money means more better stuff for us, more games. But why don't they see it? Why are they confused? They have these big brains that can decipher all these mathematical things as far as pixels and such, but they can't figure out basic common sense. Look, I guess it's something to be said about street smarts versus book smarts. These fools are not street smart. It's frustrating because I'm sitting there and he's repeating the same kind of talking points that idiots like Colin Moriarty, he's not an idiot, but you know, I use that word because he spouts fallacies in order to placate his audience. That's business. Okay, you know, I understand what he's doing, but still, his words are powerful in the Pony and Donkey Unicorn community. They take whatever he says and they parrot it because they think he's PlayStation Jesus, basically. And Reforged Gamer wishes he was Colin Moriarty. let's just be real. That's what's going on with him. We're not gonna get on Reforged Gamer today because it's a pitiful sight over there. But the Digital Foundry stuff, I'm gonna continue to watch them reluctantly, and not as I don't really. I catch them once in a while. It's like you know, whatever. I'm working. I'll just throw them on just to have noise, just to see what they're saying. Because it is important to actually watch and to hear the words that these predominant YouTube channels are saying, especially since they have such influence over normies or casuals, maybe, but mainly Donkey Unicorns and Ponies and such. And so when I hear it from Digital Foundry, and then I see all these Donkey Unicorns and Ponies parroting it, then I say, oh, they're just parroting. I see what's going on. And then, like I said, it goes back to the fact that Digital Foundry is just trying to stay in the zeitgeist loop so that they can get those views and get that money. It's even more important now because they're independent. So will it get worse? Maybe. But like I said, I can look past that stuff because I know what they're doing. And I can look at the technical stuff, which is actually their bread and butter. And that way they can't... I would say it's very hard for them to fudge the numbers. I mean, it's possible. We're only human, but I feel that they have enough integrity to do the due diligence and to do their testing correctly. So I'm not gonna like disparage their skill and all that stuff. You know, I'm gonna be like, yo, they know what they're doing, but I'm gonna take their word for it. And so the machines are just gonna kind of come out and they're gonna speak for themselves, just like the games. They come out and they speak for themselves. And you know, you look at the history of Pistol Tech 5 Potato versus Xbox Series X, and the gap ain't that big. It's like, what's the difference? You know, $200? You want to spend $200 extra to get one frame better? Okay, go ahead, go for it. And the VR is still worse on the Pistol Tech 5 Potato, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, you know, congratulations to them for going independent. I just hope that they become stronger and more, I would say, more unbiased, just like a neutral entity within the gaming space, because we need that. And I don't want the fact that they're independent to affect their content in the way that I explained before, where they're gonna kind of placate to a certain audience in order to get more views. I don't want them to do that. I want them to just come out and, you know, do the work and speak the truth. You know, don't sugarcoat it. Don't laugh. Don't be like, I don't understand. If you don't understand, then open up a web page and do some research and understand. I mean, you guys are super intelligent. They're way more smarter than me as far as computers go, right? I can't even. Alex starts talking about some stuff. He said some stuff today. I was like, I have no idea what they were talking about APIs and DirectX 12 or something like that. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, okay. And like when I dive into like kind of the dev side of development, like the code side, it's like, because, you know, I'm not a coder. I just do music. You know what I'm saying? I look Rafa, who's our programmer wizard. He shares the screen like, all right, this is what we're doing. I'm like, I'm seeing the stuff fly. I'm like, what is? So he's got paragraphs and brackets and all this stuff, and if and then and all this stuff. True, false, all that good stuff. And I'm like, I can understand its logic. I don't know the language, so I don't know any program. I mean, I played around in BASIC back in the 80s. It was the first thing I ever did. It was a program. I mean, I used to get like the programs where you type in like 4 pages of stuff and then something goofy happens and you do like fireworks or whatever happens. But I did one totally from scratch. I was like, okay, wait, I know how to place objects, like just for ASCII, like an ASCII character. I like built an ASCII little warrior, and basically I was doing like a homage to I don't have it anymore, by the way, a homage to Gauntlet. So I had the warrior, right? And so I made him out of like brackets and letters and stars or whatever, and he was like, damn right. And I made music because I was like, oh wait, when I figured out how to make music on a computer just by doing DOS, I was like, oh, you could just do it this way. And it was, you know, you just type in the letter and like play notes. I forgot what it was, but I did it and I made like a little song and everything. And I was like, do bleep bleep bleep. It was bleeps and bloops because it was a PC Junior. I couldn't barely do nothing. And the little character went down, and it stopped, and the music played. It stopped. I was like, yay! And it took me so long to do that, but I did it from scratch. I didn't have like anything to like, you know, base it off of, right? It was like, you know, just first I think I did the music first, and then I had the little character move, I think. And that was so goofy, and that's my extent of programming and code was basic. So yeah, I mean, eventually I'm gonna look into it a little bit more deeply, because all these engines are like super easy, and even if you don't know how to code, you could go Chat GPT or freaking Copilot, whatever. Yo, I'm working in Godot. Hey, I need a code to control a character, and they'll spit out some code. You look it over. Why doesn't it work? You go. You can do a bunch of research and not know how to do the language and figure it out. You know, and that's the kind of cool thing about AI right now. But yeah, I might delve into that. But I have other things to do. I need to do first, you know, for the game, which is music, and which is I actually need to wrap this up because I need to go and do some music real quick. But yeah, sorry for the tangent. But you know, hit me out in the comments below. Let me know what you think about Digital Foundry going independent. Yay! But like I said, will it affect their commentary, their opinions about certain companies? You know, Sony and Microsoft, and their upcoming. Here's one thing I would say about them. When a piece of hardware is nice, when a piece of hardware is performant, they don't say, oh, you know, and try to play it down. They're like, yeah, it's good. It's good, this is good, that's good, you know? So I'll give them that. But, you know, when it's like wishy-washy or they don't know, they're going to tend to kind of go with the flow and, like I said, do that zeitgeist stuff. But anyway, sorry for the rambles, but I appreciate, and I'll talk to you on the next one too. To wait.